Welcome to the GRN, the Growth and Resilience Network, where every episode brings you targeted stories and strategies about professional and personal growth and resilience. Hi, I'm Steve Piscitelli, your host, coming to you today from Jacksonville, Florida, at the Brooks Rehabilitation Hospital. That's right, a few miles west of my world headquarters in Atlantic Beach, Florida. Now, today we get a chance to follow up on a topic we explored in our April 2017 podcast titled Enhancing Life Through Sports and Recreation. We had a specific focus at that time on people with disabilities. As I said back then, in addition to the usual work-life demands, our friends, family members, coworkers, and neighbors with disabilities have a few more challenges to address on a daily basis. How do they do it? What services are available for them? Now, at that time, back in April of 2017, we spoke with Alice Krause, an occupational therapist and the program manager for Brooks Adaptive Sports and Recreation in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, her team focuses on the 3 F's of fun, fitness, and friendship in their quest to improve quality of life for their participants, for their clients, the customers. Now, today, we have 4 of these participants from that program who are going to tell us what this program means to them and the folks they work with. First, around the table, and I'll let her speak in a moment, we have Alice Krause, the aforementioned occupational therapist and program manager. And we have the 4 participants, the stars of today's episode. We've got Matt Sechrist. Say hello, Matt.
Hi, everybody.
We have Sarah Williford. Say hello, Sarah.
Hello.
Don Bergman.
Hi, folks.
And Chris Fonner.
Hello.
Okay, welcome. Welcome, my friends, and thanks for making time today. So, Alice, if you would you give our listeners a brief overview, a reminder of Brooks Adaptive Sports and Recreation? What is this program?
The Brooks Adaptive Sports and Recreation Program is a community-based program that is open to anybody in our community that is living with a physical and or a visual disability. The participants don't have to have any previous association with Brooks Rehabilitation, nor do they have to have any experience or aptitude with sports and recreation. Like you said earlier, Steve, our focus is on fun, fitness, and friendship, the promotion of physical, emotional, and social health with an overarching goal of improved quality of life. So we're very excited to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting us back.
How long has the program been going?
We are just finishing up our 11th year. So we launched in 2007. So
there's sustainability here.
Yes, there is.
Any of the folks around the table, have you been here from the beginning? Have any of you? Don, you have?
Yeah, I have been here since day one.
Day one, okay.
I was here in the beginning, but I was able-bodied. My younger brother actually participated in their first quad rugby tournaments, the first Southern Slam. And so I was able-bodied. I'm stationed down here in the Navy, so I got to see the program up front from, I guess, a different set of eyes than I look at it through now.
All right, Chris, so we'll dig into that a little bit further also. Anybody else from the beginning or close? No? So, Don, you're the veteran here, right? You are it. So let's start with Don, and then we'll go around the table. A brief introduction of who you are, the disability you have, and just briefly your involvement with Brooks.
All right. Well, first, thank you, Steve, for having us on. It really is an honor to be here, and I cannot speak highly enough about this program and about the heart that Alice has poured into this program to make it happen, along with all the staff and volunteers, and of course the participants. I'm a 54-year-old C6 and C7 quadriplegic. I was 16 years old. I dove into a pool and I broke my neck. The injury was only a partial spinal lesion, so I was fortunate enough to come out of that injury with about 60% feeling from about my chest down, but I have no muscle movement from my chest down. So that happened when I was 16, so I've been in a chair for almost 40 years. And so I've spent more time in my life in a chair than without it. So it's kind of an everyday thing. I finished high school. I went to college. I am fully employed. I've been with my company for 30 years now, working in information technology. And my wife and I have been married for 25 years now. And just going along, I did a lot of sports many years ago and got out of that habit, and then came back to the program when Alice reached out to me to play wheelchair rugby. And what I have seen from the program is just an amazing outlet to the community for the disabled or those with physical challenges, or however you'd like to couch it, to bring those people back into society without any form of stigma or fear or embarrassment or chagrin or shame or anything else. So that's one thing that I really enjoy about it.
Thank you. And I'll tell you what, I love your radio voice.
Oh.
It's really nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. How about Sarah, tell us your connection and who you are.
I'm Sarah Williford. I'm 28 years old, and I have spina bifida, so I've had mine since day one. Born with a hole in the bottom of my spine, which they closed at birth, and therefore it left the lower nerve endings in my spine not functioning properly, so I'm paralyzed from most of parts of my legs down. I'm originally from Augusta, Georgia, and I grew up playing wheelchair sports. Soccer, basketball, tennis were big ones. I did track and horseback riding in between sometimes, so I was very active as a kid. My parents always pushed me to do whatever I wanted to do, so I never let anything get in the way of doing what I wanted. I went to undergrad at Augusta State in Augusta, and then I moved up to Atlanta in 2011 to go to pharmacy school and graduated in 2015 with my doctorate in pharmacy. And then I moved down to Jacksonville in the summer of 2015 because my boyfriend, Harris Blackwell, who I've been with for 7.5 years now, was here. And he was playing wheelchair rugby through Brooks and had introduced me to the program. And so I started to get involved with rowing and cycling and basketball and then seasonal things such as bocce and kayaking and things. And I've really enjoyed it, and it's gotten me back to the active lifestyle that I had to put on hold for the 4 years that I did go through pharmacy school.
Is there anything you haven't done?
Seems like it.
My word.
Whenever something comes new in Brooks, I'm always one of the first ones to do it.
And it sounds like your parents pushed you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because being born back in the 80s, you were still kind of considered out of the norm, and doctors were saying, oh, she's not going to amount to anything and stuff. And
They said that?
they literally told them on the day that I was born that I wouldn't amount to anything and that they should just put me away because I wouldn't sit up on my own, I wouldn't talk, I wouldn't do anything.
Holy gosh.
Yeah. It
Wow.
was definitely harsh. So they always pushed me to do what I wanted. And when the sports program started up, I was about 8. And so from then it was soccer in the fall, then basketball in the winter, and then track and horseback riding, tennis.
And
Name it,
somewhere
I did
along
it.
there you got a doctorate in
I did.
Yeah.
I had to put off sports for those 4 years, though, and that was very tough.
Amazing. I feel like a slug right now, I tell you what. Matt, you're on.
How you doing? I am Matt Sechrist, 23 years old. I also was born with spina bifida at the T12 level. So again, it was a from birth, day one challenge for me, I guess you could say. I grew up in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, very small Civil War town. Lots of history, but absolutely zero adaptive sports. And it's just a very old, town that's not adapted as far as the sidewalks and stuff like that. So I moved down to Jacksonville in 2009 when I was 15, found Alice and the program, I'd say a few months before I moved down. And I fell in love with it ever since. I'm on the wheelchair basketball team. I have been, from day one since I moved to Jacksonville, Florida. I've also done surfing, water skiing, hand cycling, rowing, a whole broad spectrum of all the programs. And it's just opened a whole different world for me, coming from being the only one in a town of, a few thousand to now I have a whole community around of people that understand the physical challenges and what life is like every day and how we live it. So this program has done so much for me. It's hard to explain with the short time that we have.
Is basketball your main sport?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Thank you. And then we have Chris.
Hello. I guess I would be I'm kind of the baby of the group here. I've been coming up on 4 years since my injury. I'm 49 years old. I did 22 years in the U.S. Navy. I retired from the Navy in 2008. And then a few years later, I had a car accident where I lost my left leg above the knee, and I have significant nerve damage in 2 of my 3 remaining limbs. So my right leg is pretty bad, and my right arm is maybe about 40 or 50%. So anyway, the Brooks program, like I said earlier, I knew about it from when I was still able-bodied because my brother had participated in some of the events. I did 2 stints in this actual rehab hospital, so I knew, I already knew that once I got, recovered and out and about, that I was going to come back and do things with this sporting program. So I started with adaptive yoga because that's where my level was at the time. So anyway, I started with the easier things, and then I moved into hand cycling. Sarah and I hand cycle together every Thursday, and I also play wheelchair basketball with Matt and with Sarah. So, and those are my 2 favorite things would be hand cycling and basketball.
So if I have this right now, we've got 2, Sarah and Matt, born with the disability.
Correct.
And then we have Don, age 16, and Chris, the youngest, I guess, or the newest. As you described yourself at the outset, able-bodied, but 4 years ago, in injury.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So maybe the next question, then, that speaks to this next question. How has the disability shaped the answer to who am I? Anybody that wants to jump in with that? Or has it not? It might be different for folks born as opposed to folks who have come into it later. Matt?
Well, yeah, for me, being born with it, it's always been who I am, really. Like I said earlier, I grew up in a small town where I was the only one with a disability, so I grew up with a lot of stares, a lot of looks. I knew I was different, but I also grew up with a lot of friends. I had a great personality, and I had a great attitude about my disability, being brought up with such wonderful parents. And so I never really let it bother me, per se, that much. I had my challenges, but as far as who I am, I think it's just always been who I am. I am who I am without the disability or with the disability.
And your parents, we heard with Sarah earlier, the parents always were pushing, encouraging. Same?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We lived in a 2-story houses, I should say, up until the time I was 15 years old, when they finally decided, when we moved to Florida, they decided, oh, well, he's getting old enough now, we're not going to make him go up and down steps every day to get to his bedroom. So, yes, to say the least, they didn't try to baby me, or, they wanted me to adapt to my surroundings and make myself comfortable, as opposed to them babying me, I guess, and treating me special, because, sometimes the world just doesn't do that.
And this could, when the others answer, if you feel like it, you can address it. Matt, did you ever feel sorry for yourself?
Very briefly. I mean, I had my struggles mainly in teen years, I guess. We all go through challenges as teenagers, whether or not you had a disability. So I can attribute, some of my teenage years to the disability and not. But yes, they were very brief moments. But Brooks has been a big lifesaver in that aspect as well, as far as they've really shaped who I am over the last few years. And so glad to be a part of them, because I finally found, you could call it a purpose for my disability and what, we're here for.
Anybody else want to jump in on that one, Don?
Yeah. So again, my experience is a little different, as acquiring a disability at the age of 16 versus being born with it. And I've had that discussion a lot with people who have come from spina bifida or muscular dystrophy, or whether born with or acquired later. And as far as it defining me, I was very fortunate to have a very positive family support group, friend support group that brought me through that. And the greatest compliment that I get today in any environment that I'm in is when someone says, "I don't see you as disabled," and I appreciate that, but I also want to make sure that people are aware of that disability so that they don't forget that there is extra stuff that comes along with that. It's like, please don't put a round doorknob in a building. I'm not going to get in that way. If can go to the ADA all day long, but again, it's a compliment that someone does not see you in any different way than anybody else. I think the challenge that we try to overcome is, or conform to, or build in with is, the other. Can I recognize a difference in someone else, whether that's their culture, their physical attributes, their language, and can I get that same respect from them? And I work very hard every day to try and pay that forward to other cultures and other types of peoples to say, okay, you come from a different background than I come from. My background is I'm a white guy, who's had an accident when I was 16. Matt's is a little different. Sarah's is different. They're all a little bit different, and that's crosses many cultural boundaries.
Interesting.
That makes sense.
Anybody else want to address this, Sarah?
I would definitely say I agree with Matt in that I didn't see myself as disabled growing up. My family didn't treat me differently. My friends, they didn't treat me differently. Like Dawn was saying, like, if they're your true friends and they have your back, they're not going to see you as disabled. They don't address it. I mean, I would go out with my friends and they would literally forget, like, see like a door that was hard to get through or stairs, and they're like, oh my gosh, wait a second, we have to actually take the ramp. And so I had all that. And I would say definitely when I was really quiet growing up, like just very shy and timid. And I got to high school and I started to realize that, oh, people do see me differently and everything in the world as I got older. And so I started to voice my opinion more and educate people more in the world. And so I've definitely done that a lot since I've grown. I'd say at least over the last 10 years, have definitely educated a lot more and let people know that I'm not different, despite the wheelchair.
So when you were growing up and you were out with your friends, how many sets of stairs did your friends pull you up?
Lots. Yeah. And they still do today.
For me, basically, I think growing up with my brother, growing up, in a wheelchair, I mean, does it define him? I mean, I don't think a chair, a wheelchair, or a prosthetic or anything like that defines us. I mean, we are who we are. And for me, for this happening later in life, I'm the same person that I was. I'm just a lot slower now. And things take longer to do. And so that's really, there's definitely life changes there, but I don't really think that it's changed who I am, pre-accident or post-accident. I'm still me. There's definitely more challenges now, but, the base person is still there.
It would sound, to me it does, especially with Chris having an entire life behind you, and then 4 years ago, things dramatically change. What do you think helped your resilience? How did you bounce back? How did you keep the faith? How did you keep going?
Honestly, I mean, I always put this to my brother Nicholas. I always put it down to that, to watching what because his accident happened, he was 17, 17 years old, car accident, broke his neck. Daddy didn't teach us to drive very well. So basically, so this is 1995. I was stationed in Maryland. He was 17 years old. We didn't know what was going to happen. And this was the first time that our family had any introduction to paralysis, disability, wheelchairs, anything like that. So we didn't know, was he going to live on his own? When I built my house in 97, I made it semi-accessible, which, flash forward 20 years, I'm glad I did, because now I'm living in it. And it's not as accessible as I thought it was back then. Anyway, so for me, it was watching him go on with his life he never was angry, bitter, upset. I mean, the first thing he said coming out of recovery was, I need to do something. I want to race, because he was a gymnast. He's like, I want to get into racing. So he got into racing. He did racing for a year, and then he found rugby. And once he found rugby, that was it. So, I mean, so basically for me, my recovery was aided by watching my brother's recovery for so many years, if that makes any sense.
Yes, and it sounds like sports was a major part of all of your lives prior to Brooks, and then Brooks allows you to just bring that to a whole nother level. Don?
If I may, the sports aspect to the program is integral, but the social impact of it is also, I think, a pinnacle of the program. After being gone from sports for so long, when I came back to it, what I found was a social network that allowed me to re-examine where I was in my life with my disability, having been away from new technologies, new treatments, new philosophies for so long. And that was one thing that was pretty amazing to me to realize was, here I've been in a chair for 30 years and doing things the way that I had learned them and the way I did things. And then I get around a bunch of 20-year-old guys playing wheelchair rugby or surfing or playing or shooting archery or whatever. And there's all this conversation about different stuff. And I was just kind of wowed by all that. So, and bringing people out of the darkness, if you will, who have been sitting with a disability for all their life and never had the opportunity to get out. We've been very fortunate in our experiences that our families were there for us, that they brought us out. That's not everyone's experience. There are more experiences where, like Sarah's, and to a degree mine, where the parents were told they will have nothing. They will be nothing. Give them away, put them somewhere where they can just live out whatever life they're going to have and pass on. And that was true for myself in 1978 and Sarah's experience. And there are people who are still living that life. So our challenge is to get into the community, find those people, bring them out of that horrible existence and say, you can do anything. And I can prove to you can, because I can find somebody in this program that has exactly the same limitations as you do. Perceived limitations. So.
Well, it's, as I'm listening to you, Don, it's, I'm thinking back to the motto of fun, fitness, and friendship. Mm-hmm. It's this idea of community that Brooks has developed, encouraged, fostered, nurtured. Talk more about that, if you would. It sounds like it's very intentional. And how is your family brought into this as well? Or is your family brought into this? Is your family part of the Brooks community? Do families need to be part of that? And I'm hearing what Sarah was saying about from your birth, and Don, sounds like your parents were having similar conversations. What's the importance of this adaptive sports community to your families? And anybody that wants to jump in on that one.
My parents have loved it since day one, since I started playing, because I think it was more of a reinforcement that I could do what I wanted. Because, hearing your parents tell you, oh, you can do what you want and everything, and then actually getting out there and, doing things like everybody else, playing the soccer and basketball and things like that, it, puts it in perspective for you as a kid even, or at my age it did, as that I really can do pretty much anything that I want to do, because I went on from doing one sport to the next, obviously. And, my family's always been supportive, and so when I moved to Jacksonville and they found out about the Brooks program, they were super excited that I was getting back into stuff, and now I'm doing sports that I had never even considered, like cycling and rowing and everything, and they're just huge supporters of the Brooks program.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. My family loves the program, loves Alice, and we have from day one, my family's been very close to Brooks. As I said, when I moved down here as a teenager, for a brief period of time, I did struggle with some things and maybe self-image and all that stuff. And there were times where I strayed away from Brooks and had a social life that was outside Brooks. And it wasn't, you could tell within the home, it was no good for me, because I would there would be a lot more conflict. We would fight, family would fight, and I would blame things on them, and they would say, "Oh, well, this is your attitude," blah blah. So anyway, it's definitely helped. The more I get involved with Brooks, the better my attitude is. It just seems like it's related somehow, and so I would say, plus they love coming to like tournaments and stuff like that to watch. I love having them in the stands just to see how much our hard work pays off. Me, Sarah, and Chris all being on the basketball court together every Thursday. So it's nice when the three of us plus the rest of our team get to show off for a crowd every now and then. So to have the family and the community around for that stuff as well is awesome.
That's cool.
The program, I mean, with all the things that the program offers, so many different, things. There's pretty much something for everybody, and many things for, people do multiple things. To me, one of the keys is the volunteers. So you have volunteers, kids that are in school to become therapists, spend a lot of time volunteering. Family members come and volunteer. I mean, that's huge, and it helps build the community. And the thing that I always see the most, you see the same people at a lot of the same events. This program needs to grow and grow and grow. It is such an incredible program, and Don mentioned it earlier. We're only scratching the surface with the amount of people that we're actually reaching. There are more of them out there, and finding the way. You doing this podcast, the one you did in the spring that I listened to and sent it to all my friends. These are key. These are great things. These are going to be the things that helps Alice and Brooks get this program out there, and that's what needs to happen.
Alice, I'm going to bring you in for a moment. Obviously, we're hearing the choir sing the praises right here. Do you know nationwide, because there'll be people listening to this that aren't here in the Jacksonville, Northeast Florida area, what's going on nationwide? Do you have a sense of that? Are there programs like Brooks that you're familiar with around the nation?
There certainly are a lot of adaptive sports programs throughout the country. What we are uniquely positioned to provide here with the resources of Brooks Rehabilitation, thankfully, is a multi-sport program that is completely free, that is year-round in every single sport, where all the equipment, all the travel, all the adaptation, all the coaching, all the venues, it's like a muse, come at no cost to the individual. So in other communities, there might be a basketball program, but it's fee-based. And then another community might be successful at getting a tennis program going or a rowing program going. But as far as I know, they are all fee-based, whether it's like a membership and you pay some money or it's pay as you go. So we are very unique. The other thing that is different about other programs throughout the country, and I think that our panel has spoken to this, is that this is a holistic program based on an occupational therapy model, because it's all I really know. And so although we love the competition and we love trophies and medals and everything else, it is not exclusive. It is inclusive of everybody, all ages and all abilities. So you don't have to have an aptitude or an ability. And the other adaptive sports programs that are stellar in nature around the country have more of a competitive flavor, which would exclude probably 75 or 80% of the people in our program. Yeah. So other communities do have things going on, which is wonderful, but Brooks Rehabilitation and the resources they provide this program allow us to really transform lives, mind, body, spirit.
If you had the opportunity to speak to the entire community, briefly, each one of you, if you would, what would you want the community, the general community, to know about people with disability? What would you want to say to them? you could say just one thing, what would it be?
I think the main point in things I've experienced throughout my life, I think the main point that needs to be said is we are the same. You know, there's only one difference, and that's what we're sitting in. But that does not make us who we are. That doesn't define our abilities, our personalities, our strengths, our weaknesses. Everybody has those. And the chairs, the injuries, whatever your physical challenges, that doesn't matter in the community. And I think that's a good message for anybody, anywhere, is that if we could all realize that we are still on an equal playing field and we still have as much to offer as anybody else does in this world, that would help bring a better understanding and more compassion to society.
I would have to say that I would want the community to understand that from a disabled perspective, physically challenged, whatever, look past the physical, and that this community deserves and the right to the same opportunities that those without physical disabilities have. To Matt's point, there are just so many skills and so many incredible people that just because they look different aren't being given an opportunity. And as if you just open your mind to the possibility, you will change the world.
I definitely agree with what Matt and Dawn said, and I would also emphasize the point of educate yourself. Ask somebody questions. Don't just sit there and stare at us or tell your children. Don't look at them. It's like kids look because they're curious and they want to know what's going on. So have your kid ask me, why are you in the wheelchair? I have no problem explaining it to a kid. I have no problem explaining it to an adult. So it's better to be educated, because once they're educated about it, they realize there's nothing really in our way of doing what we want.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to something you said, Don, earlier. I never would have thought about doorknobs.
Yeah.
I mean, never would have. And unless we have conversations, we don't know these things.
Mm-hmm. Now, to Sarah's point, children are wonderful. Children are naturally curious. They're awesome. I've been so many places in my life in the last 40 years, and I've seen the attitude change from being in a mall where there's a small child and a mom, and the child saying, "Mommy, why is that man not walking?" And the parent going, "Don't look at him, honey," and dragging the child away. And that reinforces a horrible message. To today, what I see much more of is the same, or the child asking the question of the parent, and the parent either responding, "Well, honey, he needs that chair to help him get around," or, "Why don't you go ask him? Do you mind?" "Not at all. Happy to talk about it." So that's a great thing that has changed.
Educate.
Yes, and just needs to keep going.
Educate.
Yeah, parents, please don't smack your kids in the middle of public stores for being curious. I've seen that way too many times, and you may giggle a little bit, but it is to bring to Don's point. It's a sad thing that when people look at you and they just kind of want to teach their kids to shy away and stay away. That's not how we grow and we build as a society. We have to learn, and kids are the future of this country. So I think to teach them at an early age to have an open mind, to be curious, ask questions in a considerate and compassionate manner, that would do wonders.
Conversation.
The education. The education, and this program gives some of that education that we're talking about, because it's out there and it's open to family, to volunteers, and like we said, so you see that. And some of the places they hold the events, so you have people that aren't involved with Brooks or are not even involved with that event, but it's at a public place, so other people in the community see, and they see this group of people in wheelchairs and walkers and prosthetics, and we're just like everybody else. We are just like everybody else.
Powerful. Here's what I would like to do. We're going to, I was going to finish with Alice saying something, but I'm going to go to Alice now, just very briefly. And then what I would like I'm going to just open it up one last time. So as Alice is speaking, Sarah and Don, Chris, Matt, if there's one last thing that you haven't been able to say that you really want to make sure people walk away with, I think you've all articulated your thoughts, the positions extremely well. But there might be something we've missed. I will come back to you, okay? Alice, would you briefly just remind us and people listening how to contact Brooks, whether it is if they're local and they want to be part of the program, or they want to volunteer, or they want to be donors, or if there's somebody listening from another part of the country or the world and they'd like to start a program like this, how can they contact Brooks? Can you tell us about that?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to share that critical information. Like you said, anybody who wants to get involved in our program, the folks that we have on our panel today do happen to be wheelchair users, but please remember that our program is open to absolutely anybody that has a physical and or a visual disability. So more than half of our participants are up walking around and may even have what is classically called an invisible disability. So anybody, all ages, all abilities, if you'd like to get involved in our program in terms of the adaptive activities, if you'd like to volunteer with our program, if you're a high schooler needing your community service hours, if you'd like to donate to our program, because it does, as we grow and expand and diversify, it gets a little bit more expensive each and every year. You can call our office. The number's 904-345-7314. Again, that's 904-345-7314. You may also follow us on Facebook, Brooks Adaptive Sports and Recreation, as well as Instagram, and you'll get a great view of the many and the diversification of our programming through those avenues. But we're happy to help you wherever you are in the country, connect you with somebody, either a program or an individual that can help you get active and healthy and happy, because that's what our goal is.
And thank you, Alice. Thank you for being the brains behind this initially, at least, getting it going. And I know you have a full team that helps you with this. All right, back to my panelists. If there's one thing that you would like to leave us with, I'll just go around the table. And if you've said your piece and you have nothing else, that's fine. But if there's one thing left, just jump in.
I have an appeal, and this is going to be kind of funny, but it really is truly an appeal. If you go into a restroom and there is a handicap stall and there are other stalls available, and you are not disabled, please do not go into the handicap stall. And people laugh about that, but honest to goodness, it's a real issue.
It is.
People see a larger stall and they go, I'm going to spread out, read the paper, or listen to my phone, or whatever else. And it's like, excuse me, I need to get in there. That's the only place I can get into. So please, and if you see somebody do that, challenge them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Don.
What I would like to say is, if you're in the Jacksonville area and you've never been involved with the Brooks program, get involved with it. If you're somewhere else in the country and you've never been involved with some sort of program that's going to get you out of the house, get you active, get you physically moving, if you have not done that, find it. Find the one that's out there. You have to do it. It is imperative for our well-being. And it's good for the community too, because nothing but good comes from programs like this. And we're lucky that we live in a town where we have a good program.
I support Chris's call to action, so to say, 110%. That would be my message as well, is don't wait. If you're on the fence about it, whether or not you should do it, you should do it. That's the answer. And, yeah, it's, like I said, it's life-changing. Even people that are born with disabilities and they think that they find themselves comfortable with who they are because that's all they've known. This program still, it will still change your life. And so it's really for anyone and everybody facing any type of challenge. So do not wait. Get out to our program if you're in the local area, and as if Chris said, if you're not in the local area, either buy a plane ticket or find a way to get out in your own community and start something as well. Be the change in your area.
Thank you, Matt. And
I just want to sum it all up. I agree with all that they said. Come out to the Brooks program, because not only are you getting yourself physically fit and active and things that you may have never thought possible, you're building lots of friendships along the way. I see these 3 on a weekly basis, usually multiple times a week, and these are friendships that'll last a long time. Mm-hmm. I came from Georgia and knew one person, and now I know a whole bunch of people. So definitely get out there and do it.
Well, Matt, Sarah, Don, Chris, thank you so much. Alice also for allowing us in to the boardroom today to be able to record this episode. And I appreciate you listeners for tuning into the Growth and Resilience Network. Please go to my website, stevepiscitelli.com. You can see connections and links to other podcasts and what else is coming up. And get in touch with me if you have an idea for a podcast. Please share this with your friends and family and community leaders. Be an activist when it comes to this particular topic. So until we meet somewhere in this great nation, remember to choose well, live well, and be well.